sometimes I wish I could just live among people like this all the time, because this is special. Something's going on in Utah right now that 10 years from now we're going to look back and be amazed at.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome New York Times best-selling business author, Patrick Lencioni.
Hello there. I'm really excited to be here because there's people from high school and college and high tech and small companies and big companies. I'm so excited to talk to you, but there's a couple things that I'm concerned about. So as a practicing Catholic, I'm going to start with a confession. I'm going to confess two things. I have to get them off my chest. One is literally off my chest. The first thing is this. Where are you going? That's part of my problem right there. See, I have a hard time when I have to give a very linear talk in a short period of time to a lot of people, because usually I like to be interrupted. See, I'm in Myers-Briggs language. How many people here know their Myers-Briggs type? Yeah? I'm an ENFP. I don't know if, ENFPs are the ones that go, woo! If you don't know the ENFP, here's the prayer. There's a prayer that goes with every Myers-Briggs type. Here's the prayer of the ENFP. Dear Lord, help me to focus more on the things that, oh, look, a bird, on the things I need to do. And so I get easily distracted when people get up. I'm like, where are you going? And so it's really tough for me. I usually like to take questions and get interrupted and be interactive with the audience, but I can't do that. It's too big. So this is going to be an adventure. I'm going to forget where I was in my talk, and somebody in the front row is going to remind me. The second thing I have to confess is this. I was sick a couple weeks ago, and I just couldn't shake my cough. So yesterday I woke up, and I couldn't breathe. I've never had asthma, but I guess that's what asthma was like. I couldn't breathe, so I rushed to the doctor. He says, yeah, you have an asthma-like reaction after you got a cold, and it's going to be hard. We're going to pump you up with steroids or whatever else. And he said, you just need to avoid cold, dry weather. And he said, so where's your big talk tomorrow? And I said, Florida. And he said, oh, you should be fine. So anyway, there's about a 20% chance that I'm going to go into a wheezing, coughing fit. I'll be on the ground not breathing. And if that happens, get out your phones, because it's going to make for some great YouTube video. All right? So I'm hoping that I have a thing called Fisherman's Friend in my mouth right now. Do anybody know what those are? The foulest tasting thing in the world that keeps you from coughing. So let's see if we can get through the next 29 minutes and get this done. Okay, enough confession. We're here to talk about teamwork. And 18 years ago, I wrote a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And I wrote that book. It's a fiction story about a medium-sized tech company that's growing, because I did a lot of work in technology. I live in the Bay Area. And the book took off more than anything we thought it would. You know, sports teams were using it, military was using it, churches were using it, schools, and of course, big companies, small companies. So it had a universal appeal, it seemed. And I remember people would ask me a question after they read that book. They'd say, are some people better at this teamwork stuff than others? See, that book was about how to take any group of people and turn them into a team. It wasn't about the individual team members so much. And they said, are some people better at this than others? And I said, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. I was really busy. And I said, I think anybody can do it with the right amount of coaching or training and patience. Well, as it turned out, there was an answer to that question. I should have said yes. Some people are better at being team players than others, but I just didn't know it. About 10 years later, I accidentally discovered that we had the answer. In fact, there's 3 virtues, 3 tendencies or attributes that if you have them, you're going to be a really good team player. And they're critical. They're more critical than ever, because you know something? As it turns out, life is a team sport. Because of technology, we work together with people across oceans and across mountain ranges and borders and language, and technology has allowed us to develop these really interesting products that require people to work together more than ever. After hundreds and hundreds of years of people being isolated, in just the last 20 years, and young people might not understand this, teamwork has become more important than it's ever been. And so if you can become a great team player and embrace these 3 traits, it's going to change your career and change your life. But we didn't know what those 3 things were until we accidentally discovered it. I want to tell you really quickly how this came about, because I don't want you to think that I just sat around one day and said, I want to write a book. It should have 3 things in it. Yeah, what 3 things? It really came about organically, and here's how it works. Here's how it worked. So a few years before I started my own consulting firm and became an author and a speaker and a writer and a consultant, I worked in a tech company, and I had a department. And a book came out called Built to Last, written by Jerry Porras and Jim Collins. It's a great book. And they said one of the greatest things that companies have to do is to have core values. And so like everybody else, I said, let's go get some of them values. So my team and I, we went out and had an offsite, got a flip chart and a thesaurus, and we decided to come up with some words that we would use. You know, you've all been to those meetings. You try to come up with things that cover everything. Well, we luckily only came to 3. And we said, these are the 3 things we want to build our team around. A few years later, I left that company and took my staff with me, and we started our own consulting firm, the Table Group. And that was 22 years ago. And we decided those 3 values would be the values we would use to run our company. So we did that. And it was a consulting firm, so we were consulting to, in fact, my first big client was in Utah. We almost moved here. And it's a wonderful place. In fact, I should tell you, my company is considering moving here. We live in California, and they're trying to make it almost impossible to have a business there. So we might be joining you sometime soon. Yeah. So we look on Zillow for commercial, anyway, but that's not the point. The point here is this. I forgot what I was talking about, and it was about how, okay, so we were working with clients as a consulting firm, and we would help them with their strategy, and we'd help them with their teams. That was the main thing we did with teams. And then we'd help them come up with their values. And we tried to help them do it in the right way, and then they'd say, well, what are your values, Pat, at your company? We'd say, well, we don't really publicize them. We just try to live them. They go, no, but what are they? We'd like to know. We'd say, okay, they're A, B, and C. And more often than not, they'd say, yeah, we like those. We'll use those too. And I would say, no, those are our values. You have to come up with your own values. And I honestly thought they were just being lazy, like, well, we can use those. We'll check it off the list. What I didn't realize until years later was that those 3 values that we were using were actually universally applicable because they were the foundation of a team player. And our company was about teamwork. I was too dumb to notice that there was actually something going on here. So when we figured this out, we just told our clients and our friends, hey, there's these 3 things. It turns out they're universal application of team players. And one of my friends said, okay, you got to write a book about that. And I said, I mean, it's just 3 things. It's really simple, this, this, and this. I said, I don't think that's a book. He goes, no, it's definitely a book. And I thought, okay, I'll write a book about it. And that's how the ideal team player came out. I thought this is probably going to be the first book I write that really sucks. You know, that's what the thing about an author. You never want to write a book that you're not passionate about. And I was passionate about this, but I thought it was too simple. But I wrote it anyway, and I was really worried they'd go, okay, this is the one that he just shouldn't have written. This book has sold more and faster than any book I've ever written. And I think it's because it is so practical and so immediately actionable and so simple. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is how to take this very simple stuff I'm going to go over with you and turn it into something very powerful next week. Okay? And so, let's move forward. Now that I've confessed and got it all off my chest. Oh, here's my first cough. Sorry. All right. 3 virtues. First one, to be a great team player, you and the people you lead and the people you hire, we're going to talk about that. This is the most important one. Get ready for this. It's really complicated. They have to be humble. Pretty obvious, right? Now, as it turns out, see, the root of all sin, anybody know what it is? What's the root of all sin? Pride. As it turns out, humility is the antidote to pride. And if a person on a team is not humble, they're not going to be a good team player. Now, when I talk about humility, I'm talking about the classic thing. They're not self-centered, they're not ego-driven, they're not arrogant, they're other-centered. They don't think they're the center of the universe, and they're only interested in doing what makes sense, and it's not about them. That's the most classic definition of humility. However, there's something we have to be careful about. Sometimes we assign humility to people who lack confidence. We say, well, that person's really humble because they never demand that they're heard. They always acquiesce to other people's ideas, and they always give in. And they say, man, they're humble. Well, that's actually a violation of humility. As it turns out, not recognizing your own God-given talents and speaking up for what you believe is not humble. And C.S. Lewis, the author, once had a great quote. He said, humility is not thinking less of yourself than you should. It's thinking about yourself less. And that's really important to understand. So while the classic definition of someone who lacks humility is arrogant and self-centered, we have to remember some people lack humility because they don't have confidence in the truth. Okay, that's important. Second quality of a great team player is a person who is hungry. This is pretty straightforward. Really important, though. A hungry person is one who wants to go above and beyond, do hard work. They don't do the minimum. They have a strong work ethic. This is the easiest one to understand. It's very simple. It might be the harder one to teach later in life. What I find is that people don't have some hungry attributes when they're younger, and as they grow, get a little older. Sometimes later in life, it's hard. We'll talk more about that in a second. Humble, hungry. The last one is you have to be smart, but not intellectually smart. We're not talking about your IQ. We're talking about emotional intelligence. And it's even simpler than that. It's just common sense around people. You're the kind of person that can go to a meeting and tell if somebody's upset, or know if something you said provokes a reaction in them, and you see that. You're not clueless about that. And some people just have a hard time. They're not emotionally intelligent. Humble, hungry, and smart. Those are the three virtues. Did I tell you it was simple? Ridiculously simple. Okay? But the thing is, the power in this model is not necessarily in these words. It's in the fact that you need all three. If you're missing even one egregiously, it's a problem. So what do you do with this? Humble, hungry. Now you know this. What should you do with this? Well, what we need to do is go out and do two things. Develop ourselves and the people that we work with or go to school with. Use this for the people we currently work with, and use it to hire or to bring more people in who will fit this. Because when you bring a person in that's humble, hungry, and smart, it's so easy. And when you bring in a person in who's lacking any of these in an egregious way, it's really hard. So we're going to talk about that. But in order to do those two things, the first thing you have to do is recognize in yourself and others which of these values you might be lacking. So let's talk about that. Well, the first thing we're going to talk about, first of all, if a person has none of the three, you're not going to meet a lot of people in life. They need your prayers, because if you're not humble, hungry, or smart, holding down a job or having a relationship is going to be hard. And it's humorous to think about that, but you'll go through and you'll go, oh yeah, that guy I know, yeah, he has none of these. So God bless them, truly. Now, what about if you're 1 for 3? That's good in baseball if you're a batter, hitter. Really bad in teamwork. We have a person doing sign language over here. I love when they do that, because I like to say words and see how you say them. Hello, everybody getting in sign language over there. So, how do you say poop? I'm just curious. I'm sorry. I have 4 boys at home. How do you say dance? Cool. All right. Didn't know that. Thank you very much. Like this. That's cool. Okay. I'm sorry. That was my bird. Oh, look, a bird. If you're 1 for 3, that's not so good. Let's talk about people that are 1 for 3. If you're only humble, that's the most important virtue in life, but you're not hungry or smart, we call this the pawn. Because they're not going to really assert themselves, they're not going to get a lot done, they're not going to be easy in working with other people. The pawn is not really going to be a great team player. It might be a wonderful human being. In fact, humility, if they are, that's the most important thing. You're not going to meet a lot of pawns in the office, probably. How about a person who's just hungry? Well, that's the bulldozer. They're not humble, they're not smart, these people make it in life if it's their own company, or sometimes if they're in sales and they always make their number, and people go, oh, we don't really like that guy, but he pulls in the numbers, so just stay away from him. Bulldozers in general, though, you can see them coming from a mile away. They don't usually make it to your interviews and make it into your companies. A person who's just smart, they're really good with people, but they're not humble and they're not hungry. This is what I call the Ferris Bueller, the charmer. Hilarious people, not going to get a lot done, not really other-centered. You're not going to probably have a lot of charmers around. Usually people that are 1 for 3 work themselves out of the system. It's the people that are 2 for 3 that they're just missing one of these 3 virtues, which seems like, well, that's okay. They're only missing one. Now, again, I'm not talking about, we want to be careful. We don't want to go labeling people like, hey, you're the charmer. Oh, you're the bulldozer. I think we need to realize we all have attributes like this. We've all done these. We've had days when we were like one of these. We're talking about people who have egregious problems with one of these 3 values. Okay? So what does a person look like who is humble and hungry, which, by the way, those are my favorite too, but they lack smarts. They're not emotionally intelligent. We call this person the accidental mess maker. I think of it like a puppy. They knock things over, they poop on the carpet. See, I knew that would come back into it. And and you have to whack them with the newspaper on the nose. Now, I have a lot of time for accidental mess makers, because they don't do it on purpose. They don't know that they're making a mess, and after a meeting, you have to go, hey, you know that, or during a meeting, hey, that was kind of rude, and they're like, it was, I didn't mean that. Oh yeah, can you see she's crying? And like, oh, I didn't notice. But they mean well. And so I will tell you, I have more time for accidental mess makers than any other type, because once you tell them what's going on, they're actually really good about trying to fix it. They're the puppy. You whack them on those, they're back for more. What about a person who's humble and smart? So they're good with people and they're not ego-driven, they're just not hungry. We call this the lovable slacker. The problem with a lovable slacker is that they're lovable. You know? So we tolerate them because they're so much fun to be around. And they care about people, except they just leave early. You know? And I once worked with a guy, still a good friend of mine, who was a lovable slacker. He was so passionate about everything, about his family, so important, his children, gosh, the football pool he ran, and his friends, everything except work. And we were always like talking about it, and he was so good at taking the feedback. You're right, I should get better at that. Thanks for telling me. You guys are great. And then he'd leave to go golfing, you know? And because he was so lovable, it was easy to have him around, but of course it meant the rest of the team had to pick up the slack. And I remember, because I'm an ENFP and I'm kind of a wuss, I told him one day, you're gonna have to leave this company when you're good and ready. 5 years later, he was out that door. He didn't know what hit him. Because he's lovable, we kept him around. The idea here is this: lovable slackers, though, can really bring a team down because it hurts the work ethic of others. And as kind as they are and as wonderful as they are, if they can't find a way to be passionate about their work, go above and beyond, I'm not talking about workaholism here. I'm talking about just making their work important. Then you're getting them off the team actually does help the organization. Now, if you can turn them into a person that's hungry, that's great. Okay, now let's talk about the most dangerous type. A person who is hungry, really hardworking, and really ambitious, and smart. They're good at working with others. They know what to say. They go to meetings. They say all the right things. They're just not humble. This is the most dangerous kind. This is what we call the skillful politician. The problem with skillful politicians, they know how to interview well. They know how to go to meetings and say the right thing. They hide their lack of humility. I would so much prefer somebody who was not humble, and I could see that. But these people are really good at presenting the right face, and by the time you figure out they're not humble, there's a trail of dead bodies hidden behind them. One guy was particularly good at this. He worked on a team I was consulting to, and, well, he was so clever because, well, you would have never suspected him as being a skillful politician because he was Canadian. I mean, who thinks that a Canadian is going to do that, right? They're so nice, eh? And we were like, this is the greatest guy ever. And then one by one, his colleagues were getting fired or let go, and he was making more money. And we realized, oh my gosh, he has a plan. And it took us a long time to figure it out. Skillful politicians can really ruin an organization and a team. Okay? All right. That doesn't mean if you struggle with humility, you're definitely a skillful politician. But a person who's definitely not humble, it's all about me, but knows how to play well on a team, seemingly, and is really ambitious, can drive the team into the ground. Excuse me, thank you. Okay. You got to have all three. So what do we do with this? Two things. We have to develop our teams. So you have people that work for you. How do you figure out how to make them better? You don't go through it and you go, you're lacking this one, you're out. Skillful politician, you're out. You go, okay, you guys, how can we get better? Because people can improve in these areas. You got to give them a chance. Now, there's going to be a breakout, I think, later today with a couple of the consultants from my organization that are going to take people through detail, like how to go through this. You've already scheduled those and everything. But anyway, so if you want more information about this, you can do that. But let me tell you a quick story about how to do it. And I've done this with executives of all different kinds of companies. I've done it with college athletes. My sons play college sports. I've done it with middle schoolers and high schoolers. And frankly, the younger they are, the better they are at doing this. What I do is I say, humble, hungry, smart. What's your third? Rank it. You're best at this, you're second best at this, what's your third? Everybody's got a third. You might be great at all of them, but one's a third. You might be bad at all of them, one's a third. The point of the matter is rank yourself Humble, hungry, smart. People do that, and then we say, what are they? And you go around and you ask them, and it's crazy how honest they are. Like, oh yeah, humility is mine. Or, oh yeah, it's definitely hunger would be my third. Or smart would. And then I break them out into little groups, and I have them talk about it. And I remember the first time I did this with an executive team, I went into the humble room, the people that weren't humble. And there was 3 of them in there, and I listened to them. And they were like, so why do you think you're not humble? Well, I know I'm not humble. I mean, I talk about myself all the time. When I'm in a meeting, I check out of it. It's not about me. I kind of bring the attention to me too much. And they were all like, oh yeah, I do that too. They were like so buck naked about their issues. What's naked in sign language? Oh, like this. Naked. Thank you. Poop, dance, naked. I don't know how I'm going to make that into a sentence, but okay. Focus. I've got 9 minutes and 46 seconds left. Okay, so then they came back into the room and they just said to everybody, like, yeah, we need help being more humble. So if you guys see us calling attention to ourselves or not, we're going to try to ask more questions of you guys. We're going to try to not make everything about us. And the hungry people are like, I know that I sometimes don't go I need you guys to call me on it. See, the thing is, it's very simple. You turn your team into the best coaches for one another. And people say, yeah, I know I need to get better at this. Please help me. It's a game changer. Because 2 weeks from now, people are like, hey, slacker dude, don't do that. Stay a little longer, check in with us, and like, thank you. Imagine saying that to somebody, have them say, thank you. I asked you to help me with this. So again, they're going to do a breakout about that. But let's talk about the other thing. Okay, oh yeah, so I'm going to go first, help them identify, constantly remind them. Once they say what their thing is, not reminding them, not calling them out on it, here's what I do. So you say, sir, I'm not very hungry about this. Okay, good, I'll help you with that. I'm your manager. And then I see you once not doing hungry. Hey, I'm going to call you on that. You're like, okay, good. The next time I see him doing it, I go directly to my wife and I tell her. And I vent about him. He did it again, I can't believe it. And then he does it again, I tell somebody, because I don't want to have to confront him. I'm not doing him any favor by not doing that. People need help, they want to be constantly reminded. Have the courage and the love of a manager to call them on the thing that they need to get better at. It's going to make the team better, it's going to make them better. Probably make them better in their personal life too. Okay, what about hiring though? What about hiring? How do you do this? I can't believe it, but I'm going to say this one more time. We have to stop focusing on technical skills. Technical skills are important, but even you all, many of you work in technology. If a person can code in a certain language or they've built an application, that's great, but if they're a dickhead, you don't want them on your team. That's the, gosh, I really wonder what that looks like, but I don't have time for that. If they're not humble, hungry, and smart, all that knowledge is, you get a fraction of it because you have to pay the cost of trying to sift through this. So how do you hire people for more behavioral things? Well, there's a couple of things you have to do. First of all, we've got to change the way we interview. This is the most important thing. Here's how we need to do that. First, we've got to start having non-traditional interviews. Stop interviewing people across the desk looking at their resume. Get them someplace where you get to know who they are. Take them shopping. Maybe even for underwear. You know? See what they're like in the real world. Take them into an environment where you see, like, how do they really deal with people? You know, take them to, if you're hiring somebody, you're going to work with them. People say that if you want to think about hiring somebody, fly cross country with them and back, and by the time you get back, you'll know. And people go, of course I'm not going to do that. It would take too much time and money. But if you think about it, though, hiring the wrong person probably would justify even that. But I think there's other ways you can do it without having to do that. Like, take them to soccer practice with your kids. See if they like put the cones out and interact with the kids, or if they're not good. You know, the CEO of Charles Schwab used to take people to breakfast, and he'd get there really early for a breakfast interview, and he'd go to the server and say, mess up their order. I want to see how they deal with it. The point is, see how they actually are. I had a friend of mine who started a company, and it was growing. They needed somebody to do operations. They were desperate. They found a woman who had the right experience. They interviewed her on the phone. They were rooting for her. They flew her in for one interview. They met with her. She left. They hired her. A year later, they had to pay her a big severance to leave, and 2 of their executives quit because of this person. You know what my friend told me? If I had taken her shopping, I'd have seen all of it. We got to see people in the real world. So let's stop doing traditional interviews. Second, ask questions more than once. Be persistent. I call it the Law and Order school of interviewing. You know Law and Order? Do you know that show? Ka-kung. I have 21-year-old twins, and when they were born, I was up all night for 6 months because twins are hard, And I watched every episode of Law and Order because it was like on all night. So anyway, what I learned from Law and Order is for interviewing is this. Here's how they'd figure out if somebody was guilty. They'd ask them 3 times. They'd say, did you kill him? No. Did you kill him? No. Did you kill him? Yeah, okay, I killed him. 3rd time, they always admitted it. When you're interviewing people and you go, so, tell me about how hungry you are. Oh, I'm very hungry. It's like, softball question, come on. And like, was he hungry? I think so, he said he was. I mean, I have no, find out. Find out in other ways. So I had an interview with a guy, and he looked like he was perfect for the job. This was before I started my own company. The VP I worked for said, hire him. The team around said, I think he's gonna be great, but I had this gut feel that there was a lack of humility. And it showed up for me, humility is a lot about forgiving people. Because people are gonna if you can't forgive somebody, it's kind of like, what's the problem there? And I just had this feeling. And instead of just going, well, they want me to hire him, and my boss wants me to hire him, I had to persist. I had to keep asking him. So I went to the last interview, and I said, I'm really gonna figure this out. So I asked him at first, so how do you deal with conflict? How do you come back after conflict? Oh yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay, of course, what's he gonna say? I'm an axe murderer, but now that you ask. Later in the interview, I said, if you and your friends get in an argument and they make you mad, how do you get over that? And he goes, oh yeah, me and my friends, we're fine about that. And again, I had a gut feel about this. Don't deny those gut feels you have. And I was just like, and finally I said to him, hey, if I asked your wife, and that's a great thing, ask what somebody else would say about somebody. It's really difficult for them to put words in another person's mouth. If I asked your wife, would she say you're a grudge holder? He goes, oh yeah, I'm a huge grudge holder. And so I just reached up and pulled that lever in my office, and he fell right through the floor into the, I'm gone. The point is though, do not deny those instincts you have. Keep pressing, keep looking, ask others. Because if there's a deep humility, hunger, or smarts problem, you gotta know it. You gotta know it. The cost of hiring that person and getting this wrong is so high. The last thing I like to say is scare people with sincerity. Scare people with sincerity. At the end of the process, you're thinking about hiring somebody, and you think they're probably right. And so go to them and say, listen, here's the deal. We're so serious about humble, hungry, and smart. Like admitting when you're wrong quickly and not trying to pretend you're better than you are, or not working hard, not slacking, and not being clueless about how you deal with people. And that's how we live here. And if you're like that, and it seems like you are, you're gonna love working here. Trust us, you will. But if you're not, you're gonna hate it here. And we're probably not gonna like you that much. And so I just want you to know that, because we want you to fit in here, but we're really serious about this, and we're gonna stay on top of it. And let people who realize, I don't wanna work in that environment, opt out then. It's like at Nordstrom, they should say, listen, we love customers, and people are gonna take stuff back, and you're not gonna wanna take it back, but you gotta do it anyway. And they're gonna make up an excuse like, oh, this didn't work, and you're gonna go, come on, but you're gonna have to say, no, that's fine. If you're not the kind of person that likes to do that, don't work here, because we're not gonna enjoy your company. That's an act of love. So at the end of that process, take this so seriously that if a person really doesn't wanna work in an environment where they're expected to be humble, hungry, and smart, they're gonna say, I don't think this is right for me. And at the very least, you're letting them know you're serious, so in those first few weeks, months, and it's not working out, they're gonna understand why. Humble, hungry, smart, okay? Here's the deal. As I said before, life is a team sport more than it's ever been. I've come to the conclusion, you know who really convinced me of the power of this model? Was my 17-year-old son, Casey. Casey's not all that interested in my work. He's 17. I think he's read a book or two of mine, but maybe even not that. But when I showed him this, and he came into my office and he saw the model, humble, hungry, smart, he stood there, looked at it, and he said, Dad, this is everything. This is friendship. This is how I can evaluate. Corinne, who is one of the organizers of this and founders of this, said to me backstage, she said, Pat, I use this to evaluate my doctors and my financial planners. And I use it with my kids, and I use it with people at work. Humble, hungry, and smart. I see young kids up here. I see this little boy. How old is he? He's 8. Young man, I'm going to tell you something. If you grow up to be humble, hungry, and smart, you're going to be fine. Even if you don't know the quadratic equation, and you don't know what that is yet, but you're going to have to learn a lot of things. And if you grow up to have the best grades, work hard, and get into the best school, it's not going to matter if you're not the kind of person who can work well with others. So learn to be an ideal team player, and life is going to be really good for you. Okay? Got it? Okay, thanks. So ladies and gentlemen, let me just finish by saying this. This is so simple. It is deceptively simple. But when you go back and apply it, you're going to see a very big difference in a short period of time. Alrighty? I want to thank you for having me here. This is an amazing event, and I want to encourage you to go change the world of work. God bless you.